If homework and chore time feel like chaos, this live is for you. We're diving into what ADHD can look like in daily life and simple, proven strategies that actually help kids focus and follow through to feel successful. You know about this firsthand as well, and not to put you on the spot, but I know we've talked a little bit before about how
Yeah.
ADHD can present differently in certain kids. But specifically for today, we know parents can relate to this, teachers can relate to this, but in the household, real life daily battles, like every evening, you know that there's going to be a homework war because your child has homework and they don't want to do it. So there's lots of procrastination and arguing and nagging from us as parents. Can you relate to that? I guess we'll start with that.
Yeah. So I see it actually more prevalently with our college student.
Mm,
And I think my journey or my experience with it has been, it wasn't so obvious. And I think that's the thing that stands out to me is like initially, it really wasn't on my radar for my two kiddos. Both my boys have now been informally diagnosed, not formally yet, but informally diagnosed by a therapist. And what we really noticed was with my oldest specifically in high school, it was constantly forgetting things. So having to show up at school and drop off cleats and then a laptop and then this and then that and then staying up really, really late to complete assignments. So, he would get A's and B's. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's just busy, just procrastinating. But where it really started to hit hard is in college. And I think it's trying to manage multiple priorities, much larger expectations from an academic standpoint, and a lot of competing priorities. So you have things like, I want to go hang out with my friends. I want to go to the gym. I have to work. I have 17 assignments and 40
mm-hmm.
reading. The list is just huge and it's a lot. And so having to, really help him learn how to better prioritize his time, chunk his time into more meaningful, chunks that will help him accomplish things with a lot less stress. Even just getting dates on calendars. I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, buddy, did you put it on the calendar? So it's something that seems as basic, as simple as that to like a person that's very easy for is very, very challenging for him. And so yeah, it's definitely something that has been, a big, big challenge in our household and really something that's been top of mind. Just trying to figure out how do you accomplish this? How do you
Yeah,
get him going in the right direction? Because I can feel I'm stressed because I'm paying for college and I want him to get through and graduate. And
right.
he's stressed because, he wants to succeed and this task feels so big for him, at times. And it as a parent, I think it breaks my heart when I feel like, this is so hard and how do I help him as a parent?
Yeah.
It can feel very defeating and I guess sad at some
I
time.
think
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest misconceptions that I had personally about, and I definitely say past tense had, about
Right.
ADHD before having this tutoring business and being exposed to, I mean, thousands of different students and how they express focus challenges, we'll call it, because it isn't
Right.
always diagnosed as ADHD, whether it's there or not.
Right.
Focus is focus. And so I have noticed that some kids, we haven't talked about this population, but they have
Right.
like they kind of like disappear, they're absent for a while, they just check out mentally. That's another form of ADHD. But I really thought, I guess, that it was almost impossible to help kids focus if they have ADHD. And you're saying you have two kids that can clearly focus, hyper focus even, for hours at a time. So that's a big
Yes.
misconception. Having ADHD
Huge.
does not mean that you cannot focus. How do we rein that in and leverage it for something that they maybe don't want to do? So if the one son likes to edit videos, the other son likes to game, clearly they have the ability to
Right.
focus on something. So I don't know, in school, you mentioned actually with your son about how you were chunking things. So it's probably different, I would guess, with a college kid, how you would help them, rein in that focus and organize
Yeah.
versus a younger kid like your 8-year old, right?
Right. So with my 8-year-old, one of the things that he loves, and it's kind of a fidget. It's a unique fidget. He loves Specs is the brand, but they're little tiny, tiny magnets, little balls,
Hmm.
and he just has them in his hand. He turns them into, it looks like the same thing to me every single time, but he turns it into some sort of thing. And so that was one of the things that we tried in the classroom, because I noticed that even when he was watching a video, or if he was in the car, or we were at a restaurant, like he wanted to have these magnets, and he was just kind of playing with them in his hands. And so I approached the teacher and I said, hey, some teachers are more supportive than others. His teacher
Right.
in second grade was amazing at Silver Valley, and she was like, I'm open to anything, whatever. If it works, I will try it.
That's
So
great that she was
yeah.
supportive.
Oh, it was amazing. And so we brought the magnets
But
in.
she
She said when he had those in his hand, she said it was amazing. He was sitting completely attention focused on her, had the magnets in his hand, but he was watching her. He was hearing everything that she was
Mhm.
saying. So that's been one small technique. Obviously classroom positioning was helpful too, like making sure he's at the front of the classroom, one, so that she can focus on him, and two, so he's not a distraction to all of his other
Right.
peers,
Right.
so that's helpful too. So those were some of the small things that we put in place for him. With my college student, in his mind, he would be like, hey, what did he tell me the other day? He said, when it comes to work, because he loves going to work, he's an extrovert, he loves the social piece of it. He's like, I am on point, I am ready. I get ready, I show up on time, and I am ready to work very successfully when it comes to my job. When it comes to homework, he's like, it literally feels like 10,000 boulders on my
Wow.
shoulder trying to figure out what do I need to do to accomplish this task. But once you get a roadmap together and you say, okay, let's work backwards. Let's start with the deadline, and let's work backwards from there and say, okay, what is the work involved to get this done? So let's say you have a book report you have to write, and you have two more chapters left to read, and then you have to write your rough draft, and then you have to complete your
Mhm.
final draft, do your edits, do your research, whatever. You need to take into consideration, okay, how long is it going to take me to read these two chapters? So we build that in. Okay, we get the two chapters read. We start our rough draft. How long is that typically going to take you to do your rough draft? Okay, I'm going to need about 2 days to work on my rough draft. And then I'm going to need another day to, complete the review of that. Then you put that all down. And so I know Monday, I'm reading chapter 1. Tuesday, I'm reading, chapter, well, we'll say 9 and 10, the end of the book,
Right.
9 and 10. And then, Wednesday and Thursday, I'm writing my rough draft. Friday, I'm reviewing my final draft, and then I'm turning this in on Monday.
Yeah.
When you have that in your mind, and okay, this is what I need to do, you're not getting up in the morning and going, oh my gosh, I have all, and I think that's what happened is the brain gets overloaded, and it's like I have all these things coming in and competing for my time, and I can't identify what the highest priority is. What do I need
Right.
to do first? And then you just don't do anything, and so he said, when we created this plan for him, and he knew that when he was going to get up, when he was going to eat breakfast, when he was going to do, listen to the chapter, then take notes, then take a break, and then we had it literally budgeted out. He was like, I would get up, I would do what I needed to do, check off the boxes, and he felt incredibly successful. Yeah.
First, I think the big one was identifying what is the time limit. So it's not 6 hours, and it's going to
Right,
be
right.
different for everybody. I mean, for those that follow the Pomodoro method for studying, it's you do 15, 20 minutes, you take a break, you do something else, you come back.
Yes.
So for your son in particular, I just want to say it's not just what you've done for your son, but for him in particular, how long were
Right.
his chunks of time where he was able to focus?
It's figuring out like what is his attention span when it's a low interest activity. So school is not a high interest activity for him in most classes.
Right.
If the content is boring, if he does not see the value in it, he just is not as successful and not as focused. So it's like, okay, bud, how long can you sit and watch a video? And so we figured, you're not going to do well for 6 hours trying to watch these videos, because 20 minutes in, you're
I
thinking
wouldn't.
about this,
I wouldn't.
yeah,
I wouldn't be
thinking
able to
about
focus
that.
for 6 hours.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, him being able to say, okay, this is about my limit. Well, then that's how long. And then we need to take a break, and we need to do, something physical, or get a snack, or do something of high Some interest.
Students,
Students, it would be, 20 minutes, 30 minutes is pretty typical, I would say. Some kids, it's 15 minutes at a time. For him, but in that hour, like the example it was, he had a lot of videos that he had to watch for his online class. I mean, that's how you take the class. And for him, he was like, I can't focus on this. So what we would do is we would give him an hour of time where he would be watching the video and taking notes.
mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I did mention to him that has helped for me, because I have a tendency to get distracted when people are talking as well. Um, I write, and I don't ever go back to those notes very often, but just the act of writing
Hmm.
makes my brain focus on what someone is saying. It's not really to have even something to refer back to, although with studying and things like that, it's obviously very helpful to have those notes to refer back to, but it really just focuses your brain on what you're doing. Sometimes setting timers and things like that can be really helpful, so that they know like that they're have intentional focus during this time, but they also know that there's an end time to it, because I think
Right.
some of that feeling like something is infinite can be really hard. Another thing that we've done, him and I together, actually, it's called body doubling. So that's where they will actually go to the library, for example, or like he and I would go to a Starbucks and I would work and he would do school. And so again, you're getting out of your regular environment. You're around somebody else that's doing something similar. So you're seeing someone else be productive.
Hmm.
You limit the distractions. You have like a intention behind what you're doing. And it really helps. Like you just go and you get an hour of work done. And I can't tell you how much it helped me just as well, because I feel like even in the house, it's so easy to get distracted as an adult. Laundry, phones ringing,
Sure.
whatever. And so like to actually leave that environment where all those distractions are and go somewhere with the intention of working can be really, really helpful
But you
too.
also
Have to look at like what is competing for that student's time,
Yeah,
and that takes
I'm
into
glad
that.
you said
You
that.
want to factor everything that is important to that student. So if they're in high school, do they play a sport? Do they have, they need to build in time to be with friends and be a kid? Chores at home, homework, tests and quizzes. You want to look at the total picture of that student and put together a
So
schedule,
it's
and
not.
not just, and I think the students are taught this, early on, like get a planner, put the dates on the planner.
Hmm.
That's great because you know when something is due, but you don't know how to break up the work that would be involved
No.
in getting from point A to point B, considering all these other competing
So
factors.
you
And yeah,
first identifying how long you can focus, what's reasonable for, for the
right,
age of the student and for their interests and just their general focus. So for one,
right,
it might be a 1 hour on, 1 hour off. For another, it might be 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off.
right,
But I'm definitely hearing you say it's important to be cognizant of what's on the calendar,
right.
which I will say would include you have to eat and you have to sleep,
Yep,
and parents need you to do chores. You have
yep,
to go to work if you're a teenager. So like all of
right,
that stuff, it's not just about the homework. It's about
right,
what other stuff in your life is going on. Because none of us would be able to accomplish that if we overscheduled an hour while we're concurrently supposed to be doing something else. It's a fail.
right,
So yes, you're helping him figure out what does he actually have to do. Like step back for a minute. It's not just this class. What else
right.
is going on? And I definitely like
Yeah,
that you said, like active listening, it might be called. So if you're watching a video, you're taking notes.
yes,
But also, for those that are not taking online classes, reading a book can be super draining for a
yeah,
lot of people. They
100%.
zone out very similarly to just watching a movie. You just get into your space and you're no longer paying attention. Your eyes are still looking at the screen, but your brain's not
Right,
there. So forcing
right.
yourself to take notes, it brings you back to reality and re-engages you. So I think that's a great tip. So
Right.
time on,
And
time off,
yep,
actively taking notes, and again, making sure you know when those 1 hour or 15 minutes
yeah,
occur on your calendar, right? I really want to
right,
highlight that. You just said like one of the main outcomes is making sure that we can help our kids feel successful. And what I hear is that you helped him. Maybe it's a tutor that helps a child. Maybe it's the teacher. Maybe it's just a mentor, a grandparent, a parent. We're helping them hold themselves accountable so that they
100%.
can feel that success, and then they can
Yes,
also continue doing it like lifelong.
right,
So it's like through different stages of their life and their cognitive development, you're helping them like on bigger and bigger scales. Okay, let's go from chores, and I do want to talk about chores for a bit because
yeah,
eventually chores are going to become homework and they're going to present themselves as wars as well. So there's some ways to break that down too, but I really think that that's a great story about how you've helped him. Now he's in college, so it's much more complicated, but still a roadmap that he can now monitor and manage, and then say, I did that. I think I have
right.
an idea how to do it again next time based on this experience. I think that is fantastic. You're not doing it for him. You're not enabling him in any way, shape, or form. You're providing him the tools that
Yep,
he now has to act on. I think that's an
right,
excellent story.
right.
If we could switch to just a general battle that occurs in many, many households, which does it is especially challenging with kids with ADHD. We might say, like the example you gave about this book report or whatever that's due in a couple of weeks. you were talking about taking the deadline and going backward. Another thing that's very similar, but not as arduous as a book report potentially, is just go clean your room.
Right.
So it's something I know we've talked about it just casually. If I tell you, Kim, go clean your room, what would you do with that?
I know, yes, I know. Like, I have to go in, I have to pick up the clothes off the floor, I have to make my bed, I have to put the clothes away in my closet. If it's a bigger thing, I need to vacuum, I need to, there's the actual act of cleaning it. But
Mm-hmm.
even just picking it up and making the bed and doing some of those things can be very difficult for a kiddo with ADHD. My two brothers, my mom, when they were young, she would give them that exact task. And
Okay.
from her room down the hallway to their bedroom, they would just remember the one thing um that she said. And it was basically clean your room. And my brother would get there and be like, I don't know what I need to do. So she came up with an acronym, and I don't remember what the last part, but it was like big ducks fly south or something like that. So it was like
Okay.
bed, dresser, floor, and then I don't know what the S stood for, to be honest with you anymore. But it would trigger in their brain, like, I need to make my bed, I need to put my clothes in my dresser, I need to clean the things off
Yeah.
the floor. So there's if you give a child with ADHD multiple tasks, again, they're going to remember the last thing that you said or nothing at all. And so you
Yeah.
have to give them some type of tools so that when they get there, they can recall that memory and they can prioritize what they need
But
to
I can
do.
definitely relate to just developmentally. You ask a child at some point to do one step task because that's all they can handle at that point. And
Right.
I think a problem that's really our own is that we expect, well, because my child is older, they can just do more. I don't have to break everything down. Now I can just say the final task and they already know. They should know. I'm going to do air quotes. They should
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
how to do all of that. I shouldn't have to tell them. Just like you said, whether it's an acronym or it's just simply checking back. Hey Kim, go pick up the clothes off your floor and throw them in the laundry basket. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey Kim, when you're done, go ahead and whatever order you dictate, or you
Yeah.
let them pick. Do you want to do dusting next, or do you want to make your
Yep.
bed next? It's just something to think. It's going to be a progression. If we start as parents of breaking things down like that, just routinely, instead of expecting, oh well, they're 12, like surely they should
Right.
know how to do this. Same thing in school. We hear it a lot from parents. I know you do too. Like,
Yeah.
she's so smart. She should just know how to study, but she's not turning in her homework and she's not studying for tests. She must
Right.
be lazy.
Yeah.
I hear that a
Yeah.
lot. And we do
Yeah.
different assessments, cognitive assessments. We're like, oh no, this kid is super, super bright. It's
Right.
how the information's going in. It's not
Right.
sticking. They have the ability.
Yep.
Definitely a
100%.
big thing is just like ADHD, it is what it is. Like you have it. But that doesn't mean that you cannot be just as successful as everybody else. You just might need some additional tools and reinforcement and
Right.
like that roadmap that you mentioned.
Right, 100%. And they are very bright kiddos, like very, very bright kiddos. And it's sad because I think they do get kind of labeled as that because
Mm-hmm.
they do have a lot competing in their brain. And they have, that ability to hyper focus, like is a superpower really in
I think
reality. I
so.
mean, like my husband jokes, I always say, like, I probably have it and I was never diagnosed because I was a female and females weren't diagnosed. But as I go down the rabbit hole of my kind of looking into what it looks like for my two boys. And I'm like, oh, wow, I do that. I do that. I do that. But he's like, it's amazing to me when you're really interested in something, like you can put effort into that I could never do. He's like, you could
Yeah.
sit for 6 hours and you could just plug. And he's like, but you get up in the morning and you're like, woo, you're all over the place with, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta do this. And when you finally get down and sit down and work intentionally, you do well. And ADHD is really, it's an underdevelopment of the frontal lobe of their brain. And eventually that brain will catch up. Eventually you will have more tools and resources, but that doesn't happen until you get into your 30s. And so as adults, I think we enter the workforce and we learn, we go through lots of training and they try to teach us how to be productive members of
Sure.
their company. And so I learned different things. Like if I take on the hardest task first, then, I won't fret about it all day long. And if I get that done, then everything else just flows really well.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I know that, and sometimes I still avoid the hardest task and I let it stress me out all day long, and then learning how to, use a calendar and budget your time, and you do eventually catch up. But the thing is that if we could teach children those tools when they are in high school or even earlier than that,
Right.
as soon as they're able, like it will make their life so much easier because there's nothing more stressful than trying to catch up in school and having the work pile up and up and up, and you have the time to work on it, but you're so overwhelmed by all the tasks that are in front of you that you just shut
I
down.
think
My son has been through that, like thinking like maybe I'm not capable of getting through college. I mean, we're now to junior year and we are, he's in some classes finally that he's loving. He's a sports business major and they have to take all that stuff the first 2 years that you're like, oh,
yeah.
why do I have to take accounting?
Like
What's the point of all this? And
yeah.
now he's finally in some of those sports business classes and he's, finally getting to see the rewards of that education. And, but had we given up freshman year, like, what a misfortune for him, but
Yeah.
he really did have for a while there, like just a really, really tough time, like not feeling like he was capable or just questioning, like, why can't I do this? Like, I know in my head what I need to do, but I can't put it into action. You're like, dude, I see you, I hear you, and you try to help. And the hard thing is, it takes time. That plan needs to be executed over and over to where it becomes a habit and it's something that
Yeah.
they just know how to do. And that doesn't come overnight. And that's where, like, with tutoring support and things like that, as a parent, like, we only have so much time. And obviously, I have a lot more tools than probably some other parents. So I take what I've learned through this business to help him. But like, we have tutors that can do that, that can sit down and say, okay, let's look at your entire week. What do you have coming up? Let's back into that plan. Let's chunk
Hmm.
your time. And they can even be accountability partners to check in with them and say, hey, where are we at? I mean, some families can do, a 15-minute check-in. It's not a full tutoring session, but it's like
Sure.
middle of the week, I'm going to check in with you and just see where you're at in that game
Like
plan.
we can get emotionally charged because we care so much. They are our
Yes,
kid. We're parents. We want our kids to be successful. We don't
right.
want them to get into their heads and lose confidence and lose motivation to try because they think that somehow they're less than their peers. Strategies and support, I'm hearing you say that, they're really key, and these kids can be just as successful as everybody
Right.
else. And I also say, at the end of the day, whether they have it with a diagnosis or not, the tools that we've just talked about today, inevitably you're going to use them no matter what. Medication, no medication. We're going to help our
Yep.
kids with the structure, with the roadmap, and just with the emotional support to help hold them accountable so that again they can be
Right.
successful. So I'd say that would probably be my biggest message to parents. And by the way, you're still going to get frustrated along the way. I probably
Of
should just
course.
acknowledge
Oh, I
that.
do.
You're like,
I do plenty of
I
times.
laugh
My
at some of
husband
the
does
things that
plenty
you
of.
said because I can totally relate to it. My daughter's
Mhm.
forgetting things. I'm like, how can you forget the uniform on game day? I just
Yeah.
don't understand. But
Like, this is an essential thing that you need
right,
for this.
but you know,
And you have a game
if
today.
we can help them laugh at themselves, but also add that air tag to their wallet, I think we've got it covered. It's all good.
100%. I mean, it's one of those things now where I think knowing what you're working with, knowledge is power. They say that all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
And I think knowing that also as a parent helps you accept it. I think in the beginning, it's just like, gosh darn it, can you just do the thing, whatever it is.
yeah.
And then when you realize, like, okay, no, this is something that is hard for my child. And, this isn't going to come as simple. So what do we do? And I say it all the time, like, when kids are, and you get this a lot in high school, you don't want to have a tutor, you want to feel like you can do this on your own, and our goal is to
Mhm.
get you to the place where
Right,
eventually you can do it on your
right.
own. But the reality of it is everybody needs help in certain areas. And so what I
Sure.
tell my son all the time, because he'll push back on tutoring as well, for certain classes or for certain tool, and I'm like, buddy, we just want to get you to the place where you're on the same playing field as everyone else. Like, right now you're here and you don't have the tools to get you from here to here. We want to even out that playing field. And so that's where, that the resources and the strategies
Hmm.
and having the tutoring support, just like when you are wanting to learn to play a sport, like, you're not going to be the best baseball player ever without a coach running you through the different drills, throwing the ball to you, showing you how to hit the ball, how the actual game of baseball works. Like, you don't know that just intuitively on your own. But the sad thing is, kiddos accept coaching for sports, but they really
Right.
sometimes resist support when it comes to academics. And it's because I think they see it as a weakness,
Hmm.
and it just doesn't feel fair that, like, it's hard for them. But it's like, our goal is not to have you be with this person forever. Like some kids take longer than others, but our goal is to get you to a place where we've evened out that playing field. And now you can be successful on your own. And the weight that it will lift off your shoulders and the confidence boost that you will have when you know that you're capable is huge.
Yeah.
And, that I think that's your and my goal for every kiddo that we work with is to get them to that place of feeling confident and capable and independent. I think that is a big thing. We don't want them to be dependent on us forever.
No, we really
Um,
don't. I think that's probably where we'll wrap. Is that's
yeah.
we've gone some how ADHD presents. It's a little different. Sometimes it's a composite of several different types. Also, we've talked about tips on how to help our kids. So, parents, if any of this hits with you, this looks like what you're dealing with at home, or you're hearing this is what's happening in the classroom. Once we get our video posted, comment, share some tips that have worked for you, and never be afraid of getting support.